Hi, James. Great to have you. In this conversation, it's going to be a really informal chat that I was keen to have with you for a couple of reasons. We're right, of course, right in the middle of the pandemic, and it's a terrible world out there. And not that anyone is ever looking for a silver lining in this cloud, because we're right in the middle of it. But if there's anything that we had to really force ourselves to look at, what's been really great. I think Amazon Prime Video, at least for India, would be right on top. You had a fabulous lockdown, if I can say that. You've given us about a good 15 hours of really good quality Indian content. I just wanted our readers to get a sense of the man behind it, the man in front of me. That's James. Thank you so much for coming over and for this chat.
By the way, I have to say you got Aparna on the call, and she's the one who's behind it. I can't take any credit for how good the content is. So.
But she can always join us in the conversation. She's still there. So, I also wanted some sort of like an international perspective to the content that comes into the Indian side of Amazon Prime Video, and you head the international originals. The first thing, James, what's the process really for Amazon Prime Video in terms of how you choose what will be content for an Indian market? One. Second, do you think of it purely as content for Indian market, or do you actually see it as something coming from India? Yes, but going out to the rest of the world and hopefully getting as much traction abroad as it would in India.
Well, the first question, how do we do it? It's actually the same strategy everywhere, but India is the best example.
Okay.
So the strategy is that we're very lucky that we're bundled as part of Prime. We're not just a standalone video app, or not a standalone music app or retail or anything like that. So because we're bundled, we don't have to create a large volume of hours, right? Somebody's going to be a Prime member, they're going to use the other benefits. So you said it perfectly. As long as we can deliver a great show every month or so, we're super happy, and our customers would rather we do something awesome every month than just, 5, whatever. Whereas you don't have that luxury if you're a broadcaster, if you're a standalone streamer. You need a higher volume because, that's not good customer value if you're only getting one good thing a month. But for us, it's that really allows Aparna and her team to focus on quality. If it takes another few months to get the scripts great, then fine, take another few months. Let's just make sure it's awesome. So I think it's really been nice seeing that people have been appreciating. They like the fact that it's better and then it's just not faster. So that's the strategy everywhere. But India is the best example because not only are we doing stuff in Hindi, but Aparna is ramping up her teams in Tamil and Telugu as well. So then it's the volume is getting higher, but that's only because there's so many different customers across India. It's not a single customer. So that's great. And then to your question on the content traveling, yeah, of course, they all go up on the global service. And some like Made in Heaven or Paatal, they travel much better than any of us had hoped. I mean, they really do travel very broadly. So that's exciting. When you greenlight it, you hope that it's gonna really work in India and also around the world. But to see that actually happen is exciting.
So I know that you guys don't share figures in terms of viewership, but is there any particular example you could perhaps share in terms of it being an Indian show, but had a huge traction outside of India as well?
Yeah, the one that it's old data now, but Breathe season 1 premiered. I forget what the number was. It was 40-50% of the views were outside India. Now season 2 coming back with Abhishek and everything like that. We think it's going to do even bigger because he's got such a big fan base around the world. So it's great. I mean, I'm trying to think of what more data I could share on that point. I think early on, Aparna and I we had this question, on every green light: is this going to work in India or is this going to work around the world? And we felt like we had to decide, how to write it, how to shoot it. But then we lucked out because it turned out that people around the world don't want to watch just bland global content coming from India. They want to watch something great that's very Indian, like the reason that they're stepping into a different world is because they want to see a different world, just like when they watch our stuff from Spain, they're not expecting to see an American show just in Spanish. They want to see the Spanish flavor, coming through, the French, the Brazilian, whatever it is. So that's been really good. And by the way, the same thing applies to our American shows. So something like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which when my US colleagues made it, they were all worried, like nobody's going to watch this outside of the US because it's so specific. But it turns out that travels better than almost any of our other stuff because people love getting a window into that world that's, it feels authentic, it feels real. And the same thing for Paatal and Breathe and all those shows that they feel because they are authentic.
James, it's interesting that you mentioned about the second season of Breathe and the fact that it has Abhishek Bachchan in it. There's this thought in mind, and because of how democratic web platforms in general are, also the fact that they're not just country specific and they travel across to other countries and markets as well. To what extent does that challenge what is quote unquote the star system that otherwise would be true for a cinema industry? So for instance, yes, you're going to have Abhishek Bachchan on Breed 2. And yes, you had an amazing run with Paatal, where the lead actor may not be as huge in terms of the following, in terms of the box office numbers as we've traditionally known that idea to be. Does it really matter to the audience? Would it really matter choosing Breathe 2 over Paatal, or would it be the show, or would it be the star on the show?
I think once you get 15 minutes into the show, you forget who you're watching, so it's all about the performance and the acting and the writing and the directing, and all that. So I think Abhishek's performance in this is amazing. So 15 seconds in, you're going to forget that's who you're watching. So the reason I think he wanted to be in this one, the reason we're excited to do that project, a big one with Akshay, is not because that they're stars, and it's because that they're uniquely suited to those roles. So it's less about just selling tickets because you've got a big face on the billboard than the person's actually really good at what they do, and you'll see that in less than a month with Abhishek.
That's the second season of Breathe.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing, James, I'm sure you're familiar with Bollywood in terms of the way it's been traditionally structured. Or for that matter, any star system as it used to exist. Of course, Hollywood has its own ways of doing things, and it's become so much more about blast fests and franchise films and superheroes and stuff. But here, it's still always been about who's the main face on the poster, right? To an extent that they greenlight scripts. They're the reason they have a captive audience on day one. That's why people will go on day one anyway if they like the film. Of course, when the rest of the crowd comes in on a Monday and thereafter. But all those roles, in the case of Amazon Prime Video, or for that matter, in the case of other streaming giants as well, is being done by the streaming service. You take the call on the basis of the script. That determines what the budget is going to be. Because I'm already a subscriber to Prime Video, I am a captive audience for you. Do you think, and what we call OTT platforms here, do you think an OTT platform is the new star, as it were?
Well, since you want some data, I'll give you a little data, and I'll come around to answering your question. There's really only three pieces of data we look at. We look at how many people watched it, of course. Anybody would guess that one. 2, how many people signed up to watch it, which certainly, Abhishek or others will help. They'll want to see him, and they will sign up to watch it. And then the third one is how many people finish it. So if it's no good, it doesn't matter how much you like the star, you're not going to watch 8-9 hours. If it's not any good, right? So if you make it to the end, then you probably recommend it to your friends. You probably come back for season 2. It's a great indicator if we did our job or not. So then you think about stars and how they factor into that. Yeah, they really factor into the first and the second. Being honest, big stars will incentivize more people to click on it. They will incentivize more people to sign up for it. But then after that, it's really up to the show, right? Or the film or whatever it is. Like, are they finishing it? You know, are they going to recommend it? And that's probably the most important one at the end of the day, because if they finish it, they love it, they're going to tweet about it, they're going to, you know, post about it, and more people are going to come. Whereas if it's no good, that doesn't happen. So I think, you know, stars are always important, you know, but they're not stars for no reason. They're stars because they're actors, because they've got charisma, because they're great at action. They're, you know, they can be duplicitous in the roles they play. Like, it's, you know, they're stars for a reason. So,
but James, if the same thing were to happen in a traditional movie industry format, the fact that they're the reason why so many people come into the theater in the first place, or at least the first weekend anyway, their share in the budget of a film is, you know, it goes sometimes to the level of 60 to 70%. If you take the back end in terms of, you know, the element of profit that accrues to them after the release. How does that work out from a commercial point of view when you're like doing the math for a series with a big Bollywood star?
Yeah, I mean, well, I also think it's easier to scale in our platform too. So something like Paatal that didn't have the super big A-list star, you know, word of mouth on that spread really fast, you know, over a weekend, and then started, you know, so it wasn't like the first day everybody was streaming it, like I imagine will happen on Breathe too, you know, because it took a little while for people to say, you got to see this, you got to see this. But then at that point, it wasn't about us having to call more theaters and open in more cities, you know, and having to scale. And the box office is never able to catch up to the big star film that would have started big on day one. You know, like the smaller films, they can grow, but they can never get to the Salman, Amir, you know, like they can never get that big because they didn't start that big. Whereas in our platform, it's great. You know, you can scale super fast once you see that people are loving it and they recommend it. So, you know, the star piece, it like I said, it really helps on the first two things. If it helps bring more people in, brings more attention, and more people start talking about it, it's just part of the calculus. It's
yeah.
Go ahead.
Mayank, I just wanted to add to you know, everything that James has said, that you know, this is truly a liberating medium, and the true battleground, you know, is the writer's room. It's really the story, and the opportunity to cast for characters is immense. So, you know, while we have Abhishek Bachchan, Manoj Bajpayee, you know, on one hand, we have Arjun Mathur and Shobita, you know, headlining A Maid in Heaven. We are launching absolutely, you know, 2 fresh faces in our upcoming show, Bandish Bandits. So the opportunity to cast for characters and story to really pull people in is immense. And that is why this medium is so liberating.
Right. I'm just, my question is essentially about how the math would work between, say, a Bollywood film, which is when it's centered on a star, is pretty much all about the star, right? In terms of the budgeting, in terms of the push, the marketing push, everything. But if you have a star on a series, are they as huge a chunk in terms of the budget of a show? Do they come with that huge, heavier price tag, as it were?
Well, I'll tell you a little anecdote. So I remember Aparna and I doing some interviews together 4 years ago. And at that time, believe it or not, Amazon was not yet it wasn't earning an annual profit, you know? So all the questions were like, how can you do all these video things? Amazon's not making a profit. You know, is this a loss leading business? Although we don't get asked it anymore, you know, because the company was fine. And the reason for that is he shows video can bring people into crime. That's wonderful. You know, already a member, you know, and you're just watching. You're probably excited about the next show turn. So it helps reduce churn on existing customers. So if the original show, the film, or any of the licensed content for that matter, if that's what either brings you in or keeps you, you know, renewing your membership, then that's great. That's all it has to do. There is no extra transactional fee or anything like that. So it's just about that simple math, and it works. That flywheel does that. It does work. So you'll never see us, spend some crazy amount, because it doesn't pencil out. We'll never be making 50 shows. It just doesn't. You can't do that with the business that we have, but it does work at the levels that we do it at.
Right.
So Perna manages the slate very well, where she'll take some, with Fresh Town, like Bandage Bandits, like she's, and then in a couple other ones, do some stuff with some big stars, and, mixing up the slate. It's not all stars. It's all no stars. It's
Right.
good balance.
Of course, given that it's in the context of Bollywood, and the huge one, of course, was the fact that Amazon actually released a Bollywood film before it could hit a theater, and congratulations, guys. It was a very big thing to pull off in terms of a coup, as it were. But, there's that whole traditional cinema business here that has always looked at things in terms of box office figures, and that's why a particular film is huge, because it got X, amount of money. That's what it made. So it was a hit, it was a flop, etc., etc. There's a whole industry, like a parallel industry, that just tracks this for a living, right? I don't know where that's going to go, if this is the way we're headed. But if I were to look at, say, a Gulabo Sitabo, and of course you will have your own, matrices to look at in terms of numbers, and you'll see, okay, did you get an X number of people who watched it in the first place? And then you'll look at, hey man, like, did you get some new subscribers as a result of a Bollywood film in it? But if I were to look at it as someone who's tracking numbers, how would I know whether it did well or not? How do I know whether it was a success?
Good question. Well, if it's a series, of course, you'll know as soon as we announce season 2. You're like, well, season 1 must have done pretty well.
Right.
This one, and by the way, the reason we haven't produced a lot of original film in India is because we've got such great relationships with Yashraj and Excel and Dharma and T-Series and all these folks, that we license their films, right after the theatrical release. And, we're happy with that. Those studios are happy with that. The theater owners are happy with that. So it's a very good ecosystem. We don't need to,
they hate you right now, right? The theater owners hate you right now. Well, the multiplex guys.
Well, that one, I hope that, I hope they understand it was, the filmmakers are in a tough spot. They produced this film. It's theaters are not open to a large degree, and customers are expecting that film. So it's not a good solution for anybody if the film just sits there and never gets released. We tried to help out, and so it's a tough situation, the whole COVID situation, and I guess this is part of that. So
to go back to the question, how do I know how did the film do?
Look at the social media buzz, Mayank, on the film. Look at the reviews, and we feel so fortunate that in such dreary, dark times, we've been able to provide a sliver of hope, some sunshine to our viewers.
Right. So it cannot be gauged in numbers, is what you're saying. It'll have to be qualitative. Look at how people received it online, perhaps social media and reviews and stuff. Is that right?
Well, that's right. But I do see, and I'm not going to say that their numbers are accurate or not, but you do see a lot of, there are, like the Nielsen tracking system in the US, or however broadcast rates are tracked in every country. That didn't start the day that TV started. It took a few years for an industry, a tracking industry to develop, and so you're already seeing that. When I read the Indian press, they have estimates on how many subscribers we have, and Hotstar, and Netflix, and everybody else. They have estimates on how shows and films do, and year over year, everybody's gonna build out those analytics schemes further. And then again, I can't speculate whether those numbers will be accurate, but they're never that far off. These are people who are good at their jobs, and they're researched, and so I would think that over time there'll be better data, even if it's not from us or from other folks.
As you rightly put it, James, it's rather easy for a series, because if you say take a show like Four More Shots, the first one was set in Goa, the second one went to Istanbul, and the third one, if I'm not mistaken, is going to Europe. So I guess the show is doing well. Would that be a great way to figure, like the budget's going up for the subsequent seasons?
That's your speculation, Mayank.
Oh no! Okay, is that speculation? Okay, fine. Oh, I thought that was
The first
already
season
known.
was set in Bombay. There was a small section in Goa.
Yeah. No, I'm
Yeah.
talking about outdoor, like the fact of doing outdoor. I'm presuming would be Goa, then Istanbul, and I think Udaipur in the second season, and I hear Europe. Is that speculation?
I mean, we really do, we always work story backwards, and whatever the story requires, we help filmmakers, creators translate their story in the best possible way on screen. So yeah, it's never budget backwards, our conversations. It's always story.
Right. So, but the fact of it having a second and a third season, I think at least would be an indicator that a lot of people watched it. Why would you make a third season if the second did not work for you? Right?
Absolutely.
Would that be correct?
Yeah.
And because you guys like made this announcement for Four More Shots, please, being the most watched thing on Amazon Prime so far in 2020, which is rare, right? You guys don't usually do that. You don't really tell the public what was the most watched on any given year, or is that something that you intend to do more often?
Yeah, you're right. It's not a common thing, but that it was such a good story to tell. These four young women. It's just such a positive message, such a great show. It's if we can help the show and by sharing a little bit of that, it's nice. It's always about Amazon's really easy, to understand. Customer obsession is like written over every door, and you say, is this good for the customers? Us like bragging about certain numbers, like that's not good for customers. But when you've got a real hit show and you want to talk about it and make sure the fans know how popular it is, and it's nice. It's a nice thing to do for them to like validate their enthusiasm for the show. So it's we don't do it all the time because it doesn't seem appropriate most of the time, but this time it felt like a nice thing to do.
Personally, for you, James, is there anything from Indian content that you think is your personal favorite? Something that you enjoyed more than the others, perhaps?
I'd like to. I love Paatal. I tell you, like the layers in the show were just incredible. Like you see the backstories of everybody, and it was really incredible. Breathe 2. That one I think is gonna. People are gonna be quite shocked. The twists and turns in that one. So I think I'm excited. It's so nice when you see the momentum these shows are having as they release, and then you've got another great one coming up next, and another one after that. Like it's really fun, to anticipate how people are going to react when they see this. So I think I'm excited for that one.
So that's ready to like come out like in a month's time, and
July 10th.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
July 10th. I saw the art came out, and the trailer comes out in a couple weeks, I think, or a week.
And what about Inside Edge, the third season? Is that something that you're looking to like sort of speed up the process for and release it as early as possible?
It's already shot. Aparna would know better than I if the release date is confirmed.
Yeah, you're right. It's shot. It's in post at the moment.
Right. And is that something that you're looking at in terms of speeding up the process? Because there's this whole audience that's sitting there at home, looking for new content, right?
We're trying.
Well, we got stuck a little bit with COVID. A lot of the post-production facilities, people aren't able to, during the lockdown, weren't able to go in. So a lot of our big shows, either first seasons or returning shows, Inside Edge 3, Mercy Report 2, they're all finished shooting. We just need to get people back in to finish getting them ready.
And what about the shows that were going to be shot? Has that really like taken a hit in terms of obviously the fact that you cannot shoot and nobody knows for how long? I mean, technically you can, but it's going to be harder now than ever before, right?
Yeah, well, certainly anything that was going to shoot last month or this month, has had to move out, which moves out the whole calendar. But we're really working with everybody, all of our partners, to talk through how do we shoot more safely, not having to wait years. How do you shoot with precautions on set and making sure the cast and crew are all safe. So that's been the focus, for the last several months now. Is we want to get back to work, but we can't just rush back and get everybody sick. We gotta get back to work, but do it safely. So the teams are really working hard to figure out, processes for on set. So I don't think it'll be that long.
And the other thing, of course, sorry, Pranav.
No, I was just saying that people's lives, their safety is of paramount importance at this point in time.
No, of course. No, I meant it. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, the other thing, of course, is the fact that there's like a lot of content that's available of the stuff that already been shot when it comes to films. And of course, you've released one already. Is that an area that you'll be looking at a little more aggressively in terms of buying out some of the films that would have been theatrical releases otherwise?
Yeah, we've got a great licensing acquisitions team. So that's not Aparna and I don't do that. That's we just do the stuff from scratch.
Right.
But yeah, they look at everything. So if somebody comes in and they say this film is first window, second window, third window, that's great. And yeah, so for the first time, people were coming to us and saying, hey, instead of putting this movie in theaters because we can't do it, would you be interested? And then they look at all that stuff. So if more films want to go that route, I'm sure that team will listen.
Right. Final question, won't take more of time. Paatal, right? There was a slight controversy over Paatal, not really controversy as such, but for the fact that it was based on a book, but the book was not credited at all in the series itself. Is that something that you've thought about, like in terms of, do you have an answer for this? You can choose not to comment, of course, but is there something that you have as a response from Amazon Prime on the fact that there was a book that was based on, but it was not credited at all in the series in the first place?
Aparna, do you want to take that one? If not, I'll answer.
Sure. So, we've already put this out. The creators were inspired from the book, but the author had no role to play in the development or production of the show. We really built the world on the book. Yeah.
Right,
and
but the fact of not...
it was in development for a very long time, and
sure.
If you've seen the show, we've really built each character, their stories. All of that is completely Sudeep's imagination and writing.
Right. Sounds good to me. Thank you very much, James. It was lovely talking to you, and all the best with everything.
Hopefully next time in person.
Yes. Hopefully this hell freeze is over really soon. Well, sooner than imagined. Thank you so much, James. Thank you, Aparna.
Thank you, Mayank.
Take care. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Cheers.